Cool. Right, it's 20 past, so we'll kick off. So hello and welcome. Pushing your Power BI potential, a comprehensive health check for improved performance and security. I'm Dan Jackson. I'm an analytics consultant for Koyo, and I'll be presenting with my colleague Matt here, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi guys, I'm Matt Collins. I'm also working as an analytics consultant at Koyo with Dan. My day today is very similar to Dan's, working on data engineering, data analytics, and sometimes even a bit of ML.
Thanks, Matt. So before we get into the actual health check side of it, I just wanted to introduce who we are as a company. So Koyo are trusted analytics and data management experts who architect, optimize, and migrate critical transaction processing systems and deploy business intelligence solutions that win business confidence and deliver insight. We're also gold partners for data analytics, data platform, cloud platform, application development, application integration, and finally, we specialize in analytics and AI, dedicated support, and data platform. I will hand over to Matt to kick us off.
Cool, thank you. So before we get stuck in with the what, let's talk a little bit about the why behind the Power BI health check and why we do it. So a good place to start when thinking about this is the Microsoft Cloud Migration Strategy, which is a set of best practices, tools, and services to help organizations migrate their IT infrastructure and services to the cloud. So one of the key things to think about here is that this is not a fire and forget strategy. This is something that needs it's a continual process, needs a bit of love over time, and that's required to help you run this in an secure and organized manner. So this is where sort of the use case for Power BI health check comes in. So and we're focusing around the optimize phase for this when talking about Power BI as well, so right at the end there. So we've got a statistic on screen from Harvard Business Review, which sort of highlights why this sometimes doesn't happen, and it is often, your Power BI estate is developed and then neglected a bit. And there's a few signs that might indicate this is going on, and this is lack of insights from your BI collateral, no improvement in the decision-making ability when actually having that estate in place, data quality issues, actually possibly harming your decision-making skills, limited user adoption, so what you're actually presenting in reports isn't useful, and the inability to meet business goals. So Power BI Health Check is a great way to address these issues by talking to the users and getting an understanding of where your bottlenecks and pressure points might be. So I'll let Dan get stuck in with explaining how we do that.
Real, thanks, Matt. An important part to start with is performance. It is obviously very critical. If you've got slow refresh times, if your visuals are taking a long time to load, your end users are going to be very unhappy. It's going to impact your adoption of Power BI and stuff within the organization. So it's obviously a very critical part. So there is a lot that we could talk about with performance, but given that we're in a 20-minute session and we've got other topics to cover, we're going to keep it very brief. So the part we're going to dive straight in with is the most important thing to get right, and that is your model. So in general, the first thing that we're going to look at is the model when we're thinking about performance. In this case, we would generally be looking for something following a star schema sort of pattern, which is a very common pattern. And there's a few reasons why we lean towards this pattern. One, it's a very simplified modeling technique, so it's very easy for both technical and business users to understand. You've got your fact surrounded by a number of dimensions. But more importantly, alongside that, it's also optimized, so you're going to be getting faster query performance. So you're going to be faster when you're loading data from that side of things. And another thing to be looking at when you want to look at your model is actually how it's using storage. So we've got a quick demo on this slide. And this will be demoing how to connect to DAX Studio, which is a very useful tool if you haven't seen it before. It's good for, well, testing, optimizing your queries, but it also has something built in called the Vertipack Analyzer. And if we watch this demo, this is basically if you open up your report, go to external tools, providing you've already got DAX Studio installed, you'll be able to open DAX Studio connected to your model. From here, there's the option to open up the Vertipack Analyzer. This will give you a whole range of different metrics. What's quite interesting in it is, in particular, details about which tables, which columns are using up the most space. So especially when things like cost are involved and licensing, if you need to downsize your model, it's a very easy way to see what is actually using the space. And in some cases, some of these columns might not even be needed. So it's a very quick and easy tool just to get a bit of insight into your model. So here's a link to download DAX Studio if you don't have it already installed. We will put links and stuff up at the end. So if you don't catch it now, everything will be up on the final slide. So with that, I'll hand back over to Matt.
Cool. So next up is security. Obviously something that's not just limited to Power BI. Security is important for any application. But Power BI does have a bunch of inbuilt features to help you protect your data and confirm that only authorized users are connecting based on a few different ways that you can do that. So the first of which is conditional access. So Azure Active Directory has policy-based access management features, which mean that you can control users, groups, devices, locations that have different set of conditions that you can specify for each of those to connect to your Power BI estate. So an example might be you could configure external users, so third parties, for example, to access your data, but needing MFA in order to do so. So having a health check against this sort of thing is a great way to just confirm that your organization is meeting its regulatory needs. So we've got another quick demo here. This is in the Azure tenant, the Power BI service. If you go to the admin portal and look at the tenant settings, we're going to be looking at an example where you can control the ability for different users or groups to export to Excel. So if you just scroll down to that export and sharing settings, there's one for Excel, and you can see that we can enable it. We can apply it to different groups and also exclude for other groups. So there might be use cases for excluding, sales, for example, from downloading and exporting from Power BI to Excel. The next topic as part of security is row-level security. So this is against your data set and allows you to restrict data for different users groups, again, based on what is effectively filter conditions on that data set. So an example for this might be if you've got a user, say a store manager in London, connecting to your data set. When they open the report, row-level security can be configured to say only show data for stores within the UK. A different user, this time an employee of a store in New York, for example, could connect, and because they're an employee and from a different country as well, they would only see data for their store in the USA rather than all stores within the USA. So you can configure that within row-level security while maintaining a single data set, which is obviously great as well. So that's back to you now, Dan.
Thanks, Matt. Next on our very much whistle-stop tour of what sort of things we'd be looking at is data governance. So data governance in Power BI refers to managing and controlling access to data and reports to ensure data accuracy, consistency, and compliance with regulatory requirements. Data governance includes various activities such as data classification, lineage, security, and quality management. but if we had to pick one place to have a quick look and start with, it would be the ratio between datasets and reports. So if you're looking at a ratio of near 1-to-1, it's going to indicate a need for more data reuse and a more robust data culture within the organization. So if we're looking at 1-to-1, it's going to imply that most people are creating their own data sets for their own reports, and there are a number of negative impacts from this. So for one, it can cause a lot of inconsistency. So if one person implements something slightly different to another, you can start getting different numbers, and then no one's sure which numbers to actually trust. It also obviously increases the resources being used, as well as impacting the source systems. So if you have 3 data sets which are just all querying the same thing, that's 3 queries that are hitting the source systems. And these are likely to be key business systems that you probably don't want to be hitting more than necessary. And it also makes it difficult to manage and maintain. So what do we do about that? So our general line of thinking is to have more centralized governance. So this will be centralized sort of data sets, policies, all that kind of stuff around that, and then more flexibility towards the edge. So once those data sets, all those best practices have been put in place, it's then allowing the different teams, different end users to make custom visuals on top of those data sets. So one of the big things that Power BI has to support this is the ability to endorse data sets. So once you've had a data set and it's gone through a review process, the accuracy has been confirmed, the business has signed it off as trustworthy. Within the Power BI service, you can then mark that as a certified data set. And this just means that everyone within the organization will know that they can trust the data within that. It's going to be accurate. They can trust the numbers that they're getting out of it. So it's just a good way of ensuring that quality and accuracy, and also just to make sure that everything is conforming with those regulatory requirements. So one other thing which aligns with this, as well as a number of the other topics that we've covered, is the best practice analyzer in tabular editor. So with this, there are a number of rules which you can download from online. And this basically allows you to run that set of rules against your data set and report. So this demo here is showing you how to connect to Tabular Editor and run it. So it's a very quick and easy way just to see what rules you might be violating, and obviously you can add extra rules if there's different things within your organization that need to be matched. So yeah, it's a very useful tool. And sort of here you can see a number of sort of some of the rules and some of the results that come up from running it. Again, we've put a link to this. So Tabular Editor 2 is the free version, and these rules can be downloaded from GitHub. Again, we'll put these links up at the end, so if anyone doesn't catch it here, they'll be able to grab it again at the end of our presentation. And with that, I will hand back over to Matt.
Back to me, yes. So final topic that we consider when looking at health check is cost, everyone's favourite topic. So yeah, obviously important that our cost of our Power BI estate does not exceed the value that we're getting out of it, and hopefully it's being managed responsibly as well. So we've got a little graph here, which is we're going to talk about first when talking about this. It's licensing. So there's 3 different types of licenses: Pro, Premium, and Premium per user. So when to choose which one, there's 3 things that we look at And I think the most obvious one is on screen now, and that is the actual financial cost of it. You can see that there might be some sort of insight into when to switch your licensing model based on the number of users that you've got. But another thing that we want to consider is capacity. So it's been said in a couple of the other Power BI sessions today already, actually, but Pro licenses have a limit of 1 gigabyte data sets and also 8 daily refreshes. So if you've got large data sets that you can't shrink down, then you might need to start thinking about premium. And then the third of the sort of considerations that we look at is capabilities. So premium, obviously, with the heavier price tag, does have more functionality, such as access to data flows, more AI features, and auto-scale abilities as well. On that note, there's a few things that we need to consider. And again, this comes back to our not fire and forget sort of strategy, because all of these features that we've got on screen, incremental refresh, metrics, and paginated reports, these have all historically been premium features. But they've started, they are now available in the Pro license as well. So it's key to keep an eye on updates to Power BI and how things change, because what might have been valid a year ago, 5 years ago, might be changed. And whatever reason you might have chosen a premium license in the past, you might be able to do at a lower cost in Pro. So yeah, that sort of concludes our quick tour of the things that we look at. If anyone's been paying attention to the titles that we've been putting up on screen there of the 5 sections, they are the pillars of the Microsoft well-architected framework as well, and that's what this is all based around. So hopefully it's given you some insight on how your organization can structure your investigation into how to sort of health check your Power BI estate. Obviously, if you do have any questions around this, please do have a chat with us. You can probably see quite a few people in yellow t-shirts. One of those will be a good place to start. But obviously, if you want to chat to me or Dan, we'll be around as well all weekend. We've got some links there. So we've got QR codes. Hopefully they worked on my phone when testing this at home. For the links that Dan used, DAX Studio, Tabular Editor, and then we've got a feedback link. And if you'd rather reach out directly on LinkedIn, there's QR codes for ourselves there as well. And we finished under time for the first time in doing this. So yeah,
perfect.
Any questions? Brilliant.
Awesome.
Oh, nearly got away with it. Yeah.
Sorry, sir, could you wait?
There's a magic box now, so.
Thanks. Do you usually try to somehow refactor if it's more of a snowflake schema than a star schema, for example?
I think the very consulting answer to that is it depends. So I think without actually looking at the model and the data behind it, it's a very difficult question to answer. So obviously, the simpler, the better would generally be, what our preference. But I guess there are certain cases where you might need to have slight snowflaking.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, we'll be around if anyone wants to just come up here casually around the last of the room.
Yeah.
Cool.